Nas's daughter's song. This was a song that I thoroughly enjoyed, not only because of the content within the song, but essentially this song is a culmination of his entire career up until this point. So Nas, if you don't know, he is a hip hop rap artist. He more so hit the scene, I think, back in the early 90s with the freestyle that he did. And then he dropped one of the most classic albums, Illmatic, of all time. And on that album, he put out this one song called One Love. And in one of the verses of that song, he talks about, he more so spins a tale about him being in jail and him writing to this girl, asking her to be loyal to him while he's kind of in jail, just kind of locked up and not able to really attend to his needs and wants. Of course, this is a story, but it's all again a culmination of his career, because in the daughter's song, it was put out after a huge controversy emerged within his life. If you don't know Nas, he has his first child, daughter, her name is Destiny. And at certain points in like his music, he would praise her, give tribute to her, talk about how special she is. So if you were a hip hop fan, you knew that he was always going to show love to her. When she started to hit adolescence, though, of course, you want to start to develop a sense of identity and establish autonomy in your life. And the internet is a very powerful thing. You can just share all sorts of information about yourself that maybe you might choose to do differently as you get older. I think everybody has had that experience before in life. Her too. At one point on Twitter, she shared an image of her with an open box of condoms. And it was just very, very jaw-dropping because, again, on one hand, this is Nas's daughter. We've only known her as a fixture of his music. Now we're seeing her as a newly emerged young adult, letting the world know that, hey, I'm not a kid anymore. And even though that maybe wasn't her intention to communicate, it's what most people picked up on. And it was interesting seeing how he responded to that situation, because I think at one point there was some shaming that maybe happened either behind the scenes or in like an interview or something like that. But then the song was released to talk about what it was like for him as a father to come to that realization that, one, my child is no longer a child anymore. Two, my daughter is no longer just my daughter anymore. She's a young woman. Three, she's going to make choices that I can't do anything about because I'm just her dad. And as much as I've tried to protect her, to guide her along the way, she's now at this point where she's going to be making decisions. And how do I reconcile that still as her father? Like, I can't control her. However, there are certain things that I have to be mindful of in being her father, and also reconciling my personal self boundaries with her values, her needs, and her wants. So I thought that was just something that was so cool because, again, you have One Love where he's telling the story about, hey, baby, can you just stay down while I'm in jail until I get out? And then you have a whole slew of songs of Nas both praising his love for women, talking about how special, how important they are, how much he desires to find that one woman. And then, of course, you got the Uchiwalis. You got a whole bunch of fun songs that are now problematic today that more so talk about objectifying women. They big up his player role as far as how he would often attract women because of what he offers as an artist, how physically attractive he is to some women and all that stuff. And then he also put out a song called Papa Was a Player, talking about where he got some of these traits from his own father, Destiny's grandfather. So I just thought it was a really, really chef's kiss catch-22, because now you get to put out this song that essentially is a full circle song that says, damn, this is how much of an impact my actions, my words, my movements can have a correlate on how my children are raised. I think when it comes down to, I'm not a parent, obviously, just a pet parent. And even in being a pet parent, I'm learning that as you continue to grow with your children, you start to realize that the way you lived life previously now has to accommodate the identities and lives of somebody else that don't have the lived experiences that you do. You can't safeguard people for the entirety of your life. What you can do is try to set a very strong example of how they can be mindful and conscientious of the things that they need to be conscientious of. Hey, don't die. Here's how you avoid death. Hey, don't get severely injured. Here's how you avoid getting severely injured. hey, don't be too promiscuous. It's fun. Here's why you don't want to do that. And I feel like in the song itself, when it comes to listening to it, you get into this reflective state when it comes to the beat, how it's introed, how hard hitting his flow is at certain points in the song, where he's not trying to specifically like project a message out, but convey what his experiences have been like, and how he's reflected on what it's been like to be a single male moving through life, a single male who is a single parent too, and having to balance both being a parent who idealizes his child, who probably vice versa idealizes him. But now we have this now big developmental, I guess, event that we have to now look at. And at this point in this song, it's like, this legit reminds me, I'm speaking as I'm Nas, this reminds me of the quote, the sins of the father shall be visited upon the son, or child in this case. I mean, if you going around being a Rolling Stone and just having sex with everybody, and one point idealizing and then devaluing people, specifically women, because things don't really go the way that either of you want to, because nobody's compatible, oftentimes it's all about building that compatibility, then yeah, you're going to have a huge reality check. And that's what I feel like I like about this song the most. It is a huge reality check for single fathers, for Nas himself, for young women, for women who are single mothers. It's a huge reality check for the fan base in itself, because it's like, damn, she's not little anymore. And as much as we want to be on this artist's side, there are no sides in this. It's just about him realizing that there's a huge chain that needs to be made. And I still love her. I'm her father. I'm always going to carry this affection towards her. It's just about redefining how I do that. And I feel like that is something that is a worthwhile conversation to have at any point, whether you are a parent, whether you've been a parent for 25 years, 20 years, 10 years, or if you don't even think about having children, or if you have a desire to have it, realizing the kind of significance it has to sacrifice your full independence and start to shift towards interdependence. Making sure that you are helping people to grow, but you're not stifling them just because of the way that you perceive things and how you want to live life.
I think we talked a little bit about that in the Mother's Day episode as well. Mm-hmm. If you remember about that component of parenting, where part of it is teaching your child to be more autonomous. But I've been talking with this a lot with some of my clients lately, because my clients are older teens or young adults. And talking about that, as they grow, ideally the parent grows with them.
Yeah.
In the most effective parent-child relationship, the parent needs to grow with the child. It's like, yeah, you're not changing as much developmentally as your kid is, but you need to change what that relationship looks like with your kid as they grow. Mm-hmm. I think that's what you were talking about, and kind of what's going on with the song a little bit is that realization, what it looks like to be protective and to be supportive changes. When you have a toddler, being protective is physically grabbing them and stopping them from trying to stick their little finger into an outlet or something like that, or putting their hand on a hot stove. That's a physical run, pick them up and grab them. Now, when they're older, you can't do that. So it's got to change. You got to adapt with your kid.
Let me tell you about Artemis. I was making something in my stove. I was making ribs in my stove. This little girl just crawled. Well, she didn't crawl. She walked up. She sat there by my stove, looked at me as I was pulling this hot, large piece of rib out. And then she wanted to put her hand on the stove. I yelled at her so fast, she ran off, super skittish. Yeah, maybe it would have been traumatizing for her to get burned. I'd rather her be traumatized by me yelling at her. Now, maybe in a year from now, when I can't help that, well, I'll probably still yell.
Yeah, you can't just let it happen.
Yeah.
But that is a parenting thing though.
Natural consequences.
Natural consequences, yes. But
if they fall off a couch that you're trying to climb up, natural consequences.
Yeah, as long as it's not too bad. But yeah, and I feel like a lot of parents struggle with that transition because, well, you go from having so much control to an extent. So I mean, for example, it's kind of a joking situation, but I was taking the girls out shopping and the little one comes out and she's like fully dressed in purple, like different shades of, she loves purple. And the older one was like, she's wearing too much purple. And I'm like, this doesn't matter. And well, she's wearing too much purple. So you make her change. You need to tell her she needs to change before we leave. And the little one's just like looking at me. And I said, well, purple's her favorite color. I'm like, I can't tell somebody they can't wear a color. Like, that's odd. But it's just funny because it's like it's that power dynamic, right? Where the older one's thinking, she knew I wasn't going to do it, but might try. Well, you have the power to like tell us what we can and can't wear or, things like that. And to me, it's like absurd. I'm never going to tell somebody they can't wear a color. Well, unless it's some sort of like gang related bad situation sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
like, bring it to the south side of Chicago. No, that's too much. Way too much.
Yeah. But the whole situation, I'm going to tell somebody they're wearing too much purple. But so that changes as a parent, that changes as when you have a baby and you're dressing them and you're deciding what they wear, you're deciding what they eat. I mean, even right now with my stepkids, it's just, right before we started recording, my husband's like, well, what are we going to have the kids have for lunch? And the kids were looking at the calendar and you didn't write anything on the calendar. So it's like you have that much control starting out, right?
Yeah.
But you need to like relinquish that as your kids get older, because you're not going to be deciding what they eat every day. You're not going to be deciding where you guys go, what they do, what all of those decisions. It's like they gotta go. But some people struggle letting go of those, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
For some parents, that's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only a step parent, so for me right now, I'm just kind of like, why do I have to make all these decisions?
Yeah.
I don't really want to, but so I don't think I'm gonna have that difficulty of not having to anymore. I'm like, okay, cool. They can decide on their own what they're gonna eat, and that's great. But some people lose that because with having that sense of control, there's a sense of security and that, oh, okay, I know my kid's safe.
It's either they struggle to let go, they struggle with helping their children transition to autonomy, they struggle with identifying, well, when is the appropriate time to let go?
Yes.
Or they struggle with even creating that structure to begin with, because I know I didn't have that. Like, I remember when I was younger, there wasn't like a calendar or anything like that or a schedule. It was just, hey, this is what is going to be made. Do you want anything else? And it's like, no. And then after a certain point, it's like, you know what? I'm tired of being asked what I want, because what I want, it's probably not here. I'm not saying this to my parent, of course. I'm like, I'm just going to learn how to make it myself. That's it.
That's nice. You could make it yourself. Well, here it's like with 4 kids.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of wants different things and not everyone's always in agreement. So it's better to just have the decision made. But right now it's because they're kids and they're not really cooking for themselves yet.
Yeah.
I want to teach I told the boys literally yesterday that I'm going to show them how to make a pizza in the oven, but not the way that their dad likes us to make, because he likes to put it directly on the rack. I don't feel comfortable having I don't feel comfortable having them do that, because the way I learned, and I started cooking for myself a lot younger than they are, but I would always use like a cookie sheet or something else that I can grab to get it in and out of the oven earlier. And we have a little pizza pan that has handles, and so I told them that if they're going to make it, they're going to use that. I'm not having them putting it directly on the rack, because I don't want them to burn themselves, especially when they're learning. But anyway, but see, it's a little bit, you give a little bit of room to kind of make sure it's safe, and then you go from there. But you got to do it.
Yeah.
That's the part. You got to do it. You can't just be like, I'm not going to teach my kids how to cook at all.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things I like about the song the most, to transition back, because we, go off on, well, I know I do. I go off on tangents.
We do go off on tangents.
Yeah. This song, I think, definitely encapsulates what it means to realize I gotta let my kid do their own thing, even if I disagree with certain things that they say or do in life. Like, even in the first verse, he talks about how when he realized that his daughter, I guess, was dating this guy who was in jail at the time, wanted to get pissed off, but was like, if I get pissed off, I'm going to push her away. And then she's just going to find herself into a more messed up situation where she feels like she doesn't have my support, which may lead to further consequences. I don't want that. So let me just talk to her, because, again, I'm the guy who put out One Love. I'm the guy who put out Uchiwali. I'm the guy who talked about having sex with multiple artists and fans and other celebrities this is to be expected, not just because these are my sins and I'm getting karma for them. This is just a facet of life. Like, things change. We find ourselves in more adult situations. And as a father, it is my obligation to help maneuver my child in the best way possible without shaming her. Because the internet is, again, a powerful thing and will shame the fuck out of you.
Oh, yeah. Internet, great and horrible.
Yeah. All right. That's all I got for Nas's daughters. Next year, I'm going to step it up and be maybe a little more personal with songs I select.
Yeah. You didn't talk about your dad at all.
I think that's also a subconscious personal choice. Like, I feel like with certain relationships, I want to keep them private. And then other relationships, I have no problem with like talking about. I feel like that's an okay boundary to have for now. Just, this is the relationships that I have. This is what I want to talk about. And this is what I want to keep private. Like, if it's a romantic one and I feel comfortable with my partner and she's comfortable with like opening up and me talking about the stuff, then I'll talk about it. If it's something that I want to just keep to myself, I want to keep it to myself.
For sure.
Yeah.
Did you have a we have to go to our recommendations.
I did, but of course, I'll let you go first because I obviously know mine. I'm just pulling it up so I can go over it real quick in my mind. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Sure. I'm not going to lie. I just did the same thing. So I had to think about because I still wanted to relate it to my dad and I don't want to just pick a random song. So I was thinking, I don't know how to say this artist's name. I think it's Laney, Lany.
Lan, yeah.
It's all caps. I mean, I listen to a lot of his music, but I've never just thought about how do I pronounce that. But he has a song called Cowboy in LA. I like it. It's an older song. I mean, not super old. Like, probably came out this year or last year at the latest. But I like it. It reminds me of my dad. See, a big thing for me with my dad is his relationship with my mother. Mm-hmm. So when I think about my dad, it's always him and her, and they're always together. I even told my husband the other day, like, my dad's probably ideal world would just be him and mom and their little dog, and they'd be living on the ranch in Mexico. Yeah. And that would be perfection to him. Not that my dad doesn't love us, but it's just that's kind of his happy place, He'd like us coming to visit him and everything like that, but he likes just being with my mom. And it's a little bit, I don't want to say from an older time, because there are men like this out there. It's not, but I don't know if it's super common, but I feel like he definitely has that sort of, I don't know, cowboy style. He likes to hold my mom's hand. He holds my mom's hand in public. He always has to sit next to her. He always likes to sit next to her. Yeah. If there's not a spot next to her, if we go out to eat, he's just kind of like awkwardly stands there until like somebody moves. So it's just kind of, yeah, so I didn't know not to sit next to her. Like, I would sit on the other side of her, because he always is right with her. And this song, Cowboy in LA, I don't even think this is really what the artist is like. It's just a song he came up with, but it's about, holding hands, going out on dates, holding the door, just kind of being that gentleman or country boy, Yeah. And how that's like different compared to a lot of guys in LA, which is accurate. But if you've ever been to LA, it's pretty accurate. I was in LA. Everybody just kind of looked the same on some level. Yeah. Like, everyone's like maybe trying to actively be different, but then it also just kind of meshes together. Whereas like everybody is thinking about their appearance, and you're just like, okay, but that's LA. LA is supposed to be like that. So Cowboy in LA, it's like, just being a little different, kind of standing out and still doing those old basic things that I don't really think are even really gender related, just kind of a kindness. Because I've seen it with same-sex couples too. Someone just grows up with that sort of inclination, like, oh, I want to hold the door open for my partner. I want to hold hands. It doesn't have to be a gender thing, Yeah. But I like this song. I think it's a fun song. So that is my recommendation.
I think that display of affection from men depends on the partner that they're with. I know that that's definitely a part of me. I can't say it's something that every partner in the past has been able to access, because a lot of it, there's a lot that goes into displaying that type of vulnerability with somebody. You have to feel safe, secure, you have to feel trust in that person. And at the same time, too, I feel like it's something that has to be selectively displayed and demonstrated, because it's easy, again, depending on the partner you're with, to do all that stuff and then find that it is taken for granted. I know for me, I'm not doing that stuff if I know that I'm going to get taken advantage of. No. And I feel like that's the case for most men too. Like, it's easy for us to become attached to a person. It's harder to allow ourselves to be vulnerable with that person if it doesn't seem like they don't have those three attributes.
See, no, that's perfect, because I think that's the difference. I think there comes in the difference of like the cultural or sort of even just generational thing, era thing, is because I don't think it's like that for every man as an even a thought of vulnerability. It's just, this is what I do. This is what I do for anyone I'm around as a sign of respect. So whether it be my mother, sister, daughter, even my friend, I'm going to hold the door open for my friend. It's just a respectful thing to do. And then in terms of affection, similar, you know, this is just what you do.
Yeah.
Because I know with both my parents, they both have that. Well, yeah, so it is matched. They both have that concept of like their relationship is the foundation of the family. So they put a lot of effort in and focus into that. Like their relationship is, the foundation. I don't think of another word for it. So they're going to be affectionate and they're going to be,
It makes me think about the differences. Like, I wish I had a time machine where I could go back and see if all of the newer discussions having to do with gender equality and all that stuff of now, how much would it be, or how much of a relevant conversation would it start to become if discussed back then during the time where our parents were like dating and getting into that aspect of like marriage or commitment. I wonder what it would be like, but I'm not going to go there because my brain is already overthinking too much already about what that could be like. For myself, I do have a song that reminds me of my dad. I have a whole album that reminds me of my dad, but for funny reasons, nothing too personal, nothing too in-depth, I'm going to recommend the album and the song G-Unit, Beg for Mercy. Here's why. If you listen to the song, it is a very, very aggressive song. It's all about like shooting people, violence, killing, proving how hard you are, all that good fun stuff when it comes to hardcore rap. And the reason why I'm listening or recommending it is because of a story that I have from my adolescent days. So this was maybe around the time I was 12, 13 or 14 years old, when me and my friends wanted to go out and have fun. Sometimes we'd stay in the neighborhood. Sometimes that wouldn't be a good idea. And when that wouldn't be a good idea, or we just got bored of just staying around the area, we would go to like the mall. So sometimes it would be to Ford City Mall, get on the bus. And then other times it would be to River Oaks Mall. Now, there's no way to go there, at least younger me thought so at the time, without getting a ride from our parents. So my dad would usually be the one that drives us out there. We would go to the mall, we would go to Toys R Us, we would go to Best Buy, we would go to Target. And I remember specifically going to the Target that used to be open in Calumet City. And I had my G-Unit CD playing in the CD player, and it was the explicit version. I thought to myself when we got there, I should probably ask my dad to pause this and eject. I did not. So me, my best friend at the time, and I think his brother, we got out, we went into the store, we just browsed around, just looked at stuff, came back out, and then I got it. I got it. He yelled at me. He was like, what is this? What is this mess you're listening to? Who bought this for you? Did you buy this for yourself? And of course, it's a little bit of embarrassment because it's like, man, just listen to music I like. You don't understand me, Dad. But it reminded me so much of that time because when you listen to that song, how aggressive it is, you think about it in one perspective, but sometimes music can inspire us in many different ways. And it's not just a song that you can work out to, a song you can listen to when you're angry. It's a song that can bring you fond memories. And that's what it reminds me of, getting chided by my dad for listening to music that I was way too young for.
It shows that he cares, though. Yes.
Very much. It was a very, very, I didn't even take it personally. It was just like one of those like bashful, damn. But
also it shows a little respect for you too, though, that he didn't chastise you about it in front of your...
Oh, no, it was in front of me.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
I thought they had like left the car.
No, it wasn't that bad. It was just funny. It was a funny memory. It was a bashful, like, oh, dang, next time I know better. And yeah, he does care. And it's just one of those funny memories that you don't often think will stay with you for a long period of time in life. And it still did.
I'll have to listen to it and add it to my list.
All right.
All right. So before we end today, we gotta remember to tell everybody, check out TBD Coffee. Check them out on Instagram. Check them out on Facebook. Sign up for the text updates. Remember, if you order anything off of their site, you can use our code
YTP15.
YTP15.
Yeah.
Well, also, if you forget, always look at our Facebook page. We have our code on one of our posts here, or Facebook. Well, it is on Facebook and Instagram.
If you are a Ride or Die fan from episode 1, I am going to offer you a challenge to comment on one of our newer social media posts thanking Anna for creating such great content. So let us know who you are. Maybe we'll enter you in a raffle one day.
Yeah, we could send you some TBD coffee. Our code is YTP15. Oh, and speaking of Instagram and Facebook, check us out, Your Therapist Playlist. Instagram, YT_playlist, or just search Your Therapist Playlist. Will pop up on there. We will be putting out episode 9 today, our artist interview that we most recently did with Jaman.
Shout out to Jaman.
He just goes by Jaman, right?
Yep.
Jaman. So check that out.
Formerly known as Meaty High or Meaty.
Man, I don't think you mentioned that in the artist interview. That would have been helpful.
He didn't. But just in case, I wanted to throw that out there in case maybe listeners knew of him from other aliases.
Good point. Glad you added it now. So people check that out. What do you got, Matt? Anything to add?
Of course, subscribe to us on your favorite platforms when it comes to podcasting, whether it be Apple Music, whether it be Google Play Podcast or Google Podcast, whether it be Spotify. Yeah, just find us everywhere you can. And stay looking out for the latest episodes.
And there will be might be a delay between this episode and our next. Our next episode, we will be recording on the 27th. So we got a little break here. It's hopefully, plan can be a very special episode. Very, very special episode. But we shall see, which is the reason for the break. But you'll all see when we get to it.
You guys can't see this, but Anna is turning a little bit red.
I'm excited. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.